A few years later, I was a plaintiff in a lawsuit because the boat that I was on in that flotilla was a US flagged ship. And Israel hit us in international waters. And Israel brutalized us and tormented us in international waters. And there's actually an exception to foreign sovereign immunity that says if you commit an attack, murder or terrorism on US soil, that's an exception to foreign sovereign immunity. So that's what we argued. Israel hit a US ship in international waters, that's US soil, and it terrorized us on the high seas. But again, the government intervened against us and the court dismissed. So all of them, so unfortunately I knew this one would be dismissed, but we did not want to let it go. And so we said, look, it's clear that the United States has immunized itself when it comes to its federal courts here and being held accountable for war crimes, including genocide, the mother of all crimes. And so we have to go international, but the US has also tried to immunize itself internationally too. We know that it is not signatory to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. That doesn't mean that the ICC can't get jurisdiction over US officials. It can if countries would have the political will to, and the ICC would have the political will to do so, and that's probably far off. We also know the International Court of Justice, although the United States is a signatory to the Genocide Convention, and just like South Africa has taken Israel to the International Court of Justice, the US is also signatory to the Genocide Convention, but what did the US do? It entered a reservation to jurisdiction, so it said that although we ratify the Genocide Convention, we can't be brought to court unless we agree to it. But there is an international human rights system that really hasn't been used when it comes to the US support for Israeli war crimes, and that's the Inter-American Human Rights System. The Inter-American Human Rights System, we have an Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, and we have an Inter-American Court on Human Rights. Now, the United States does not recognize the jurisdiction of the court, but it does recognize the jurisdiction of the commission, which is headquartered right here in Washington, D.C., and it frequently defends itself against claims that it has violated its obligations under what's called the American Declaration on the Rights and Duties of Man. And so this is what this is based on, because when you support genocide, you basically violate every right that's guaranteed in the American Declaration, which the United States is held to. The first and foremost among them is the right to life. But we name about 15 different rights that the US violated, and there's more. It's just every single right is violated. And it is because, I don't have to tell you, uncritical support for Israel, not just with our tax dollars, not just with the billions that we give Israel every year, and that has been escalated these past couple of years, but also by the diplomatic cover that we provide to Israel, including trying to delegitimize these international mechanisms and these courts that are trying to hold people accountable. But without accountability, you have no protections, and that is what the United States is trying to do. The United States and Israel is really trying to tell the world that we can't be held accountable, and therefore no one is safe. It is really the might is right. Mm-hmm. And the United States knows that it is powerful, so it's basically saying, stop us, the US and Israel. Even though we are filing this historic petition, I don't want to make it seem like this is what is going to lead to accountability, because as with all international law and international legal fora, there is no enforcement mechanism. Right? Enforcement comes down to people. Enforcement comes down to political will. And so no matter what lawyers do and try to do, it's what the movement in the streets continue to do, and we support each other. In fact, that's why I became a lawyer. I was an activist first, and I'm probably still an activist first, and then a lawyer, and those two avenues really have to support each other. And so what we can do is take this petition and use it in campaigning, use it in continuing to organize, to divest, to boycott, and hopefully lead to sanctions on Israel, use it to educate, and hopefully we will get some mechanism of justice. It will take a long time, although we are asking for what's called precautionary measures, because we are arguing that any delay in adjudicating this is going to lead to a lot more irreparable harm, as we see people are being killed in the hundreds and even thousands weekly. So it might be a long process, but we are pushing for a quicker review, and we are going to also use it to organize people saying after the fact they knew about the horrors of the Nazi regime and what's happening. But what the US and Israel are telling us today is that they can deliberately starve a civilian population after mercilessly bombing them for nearly 2 years to death in a death camp, and we're not going to do anything about it, and you can't stop it. It is equivalent. It is equivalent to watching Nazis march people into those gas chambers and turning away. And turning away. And we have to realize that this is as severe. And we're not going to stand for it. And history is going to remember that we did not stand for it. So let me thank you for being here and for everything that you're doing. I can tell you from having worked many years on the ground in Palestine, Palestinians who certainly feel that they have been abandoned by the entire world know that they have not been abandoned by you, those who are working tirelessly to stop this genocide and to see freedom and justice for the Palestinian people. Thank you.
So we stand here today as Americans who are fed up with the way that the United States government has spent our tax dollars. While several programs across housing, education, and healthcare are gutted, our politicians think that the better use of that money should be going towards killing children, massacring families, and leveling churches, schools, and hospitals. Instead of taking care of our veterans, we are sending more of our soldiers to fight a population of civilians, putting them in the crosshairs of Israel's indiscriminate bombing and giving them a lifetime of PTSD that we will refuse to treat. I lost 43 family members in the last 20 months of this genocide. 43. Growing up in a Catholic private school, I only had 38 classmates. I lost the equivalent of an entire graduating class worth of family members, people that I never got a chance to meet because of Israel's inhumane and illegal blockade on Gaza. These were men, women, and children who had promising careers and bright futures. Teachers, doctors, dentists, students. They weren't soldiers or fighters or terrorists, but painting them as such and telling you that they were human shields for such has manufactured consent for their murders. One of my cousins, Abdurrahman, was shot. As a Palestinian, I know that the majority of people in this country don't really understand our values or what we're fighting for. So let me make it clear. We fight for the same thing that the majority of Americans want. Freedom from persecution for our religion. Liberty to pursue our dreams of being engineers, doctors, farmers, or artists. And justice for the violence that we unrightly face at the hands of people who can't even see our humanity. And America is no stranger to fighting for humanity. Not even 50 years ago, in the 80s, queer people in this country were fighting for the same things while the media dehumanized them and didn't care about their deaths. That's right. There's nothing more American than fighting for these things. And if you can get past the bias and racism, perhaps you can see how much we have in common. Standing here in DC, I am simultaneously staring in awe and shaking with rage. Growing up, we were indoctrinated to believe in the greatness of these lands and how the men who laid these foundations stood for freedom, liberty, and justice. The same things that Palestinians are fighting for. Instead, the hard truth and real history reminds us that those men were slave owners. They were colonizers and violent oppressors. What is happening in Gaza today is no different to what happened to the Anacostans in the 1600s who lived here long before DC even existed.
That's right.
But that's not the history that we're taught. And a majority of Americans have a warped sense of what this country represents. But make no mistake, this country's real face is finally showing itself. Today, representing America means defunding schools and doing nothing about the shootings occurring in them. Representing America means prioritizing corporations over people and protecting CEOs while workers struggle to make ends meet. Representing America means supporting the kidnapping of law-abiding citizens and sending them to torture camps because you disagree with them. Representing America means doing nothing as a fascist and his goons dismantle our democracy and their pockets are filled with money from war manufacturers and foreign adversaries. The only reason this is happening is because no one in this country knows what it's like to hold our leaders accountable. So as Americans who refuse to sit idly by while our money pays for death and destruction, while our cities and towns are stripped of the essentials they need, it is our duty to take this fight to the international community so that one day we can all have a country that actually stands for liberty, freedom, and justice instead of the monstrous settler colonizing beast that it has always been.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tarek. Thank you so much. Next up, we're honored to have Robert McCrae, who is the Director of the Government Affairs Division of the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE.
Thank you.
We are so excited to be working with CARE. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Again, my name is Robert McCaw. I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Council on American Islamic Relations, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization. I first want to express my deepest thanks and appreciation to Taxpayers Against Genocide and the National Lawyer Guild's International Committee for their courageous and vital work. And it really is vital work in this historical complaint with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. CARE offers our fullest support in their effort, and this effort at holding our government accountable for its complicity in Israel's ongoing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, against their occupation and apartheid of Palestinians throughout the region, including the West Bank. We stand united alongside all those gathered here today in this room, all those watching across the nation, and all those Americans demanding accountability and justice. So I ask ourselves today, where else can Americans go who oppose our government's complicity in genocide? Where can we go to turn for justice? How can we ensure that our individual hands are not stained with the blood or oppression of Palestinians when it's our tax dollars and our elected officials in our government agencies that are facilitating these atrocities? Our own branches of government have failed us. The executive branch under President Biden and now President Trump continue unabatedly to provide funding, political cover, and support for Israel's genocidal actions. Israel's deliberate use of starvation now in this campaign of blocking humanitarian aid flagrantly violates U.S. law and international law. It further intensifies the suffering of Palestinians, and our government's refusal to classify Israel's starvation tactics, its bombings of hospitals, schools, refugee camps, water treatment centers, electricity lines, communication centers, press tense. A zoo. This is genocide. I have spent the last several weeks watching starved, emaciated, dead children that remind me of my own children every day, and I know this is a genocide, and yet our government doesn't have the will or the ability to refuse to track how these weapons of war that we're providing Israel are being utilized in these war crimes. It is a violation of our government's duty to uphold the US Constitution, our laws, international law, including the Leahy Law, which mandates the end of weapons transfers to human rights violators. Every Israeli unit operating in Gaza and the West Bank has used US-supplied weapons to commit documented war crimes, and yet our government ignores these crimes willfully. Meanwhile, our law enforcement right now and immigration agencies are targeting, arresting, detaining, and attempting, while failing, to deport brave students and activists whose only so-called crime is to speak out against this genocide. Our Congress, even worse, those that we elected to represent us, have turned a blind eye and refuse even basic acknowledgement of these crimes, and instead they're competing to introduce bills in Congress that would silence us and criminalize American citizens, especially these brave young people, these students who are courageously speaking truth to power. We don't speak enough truth to power in this country. So instead of condemning genocide, Congress is eroding our rights. And as we've heard earlier, our courts, they have even closed their doors to justice. Though the U.S. District Court in the Northern District of California explicitly recognized Israel's military actions as intended, I'm going to quote, to eradicate a whole people, that's genocide. And therefore, it's genocide. The court concluded that it lacked jurisdiction to halt our government's complicity, stating, and I quote, "There are rare cases in which the preferred outcome is inaccessible to the court. This is one of those cases," and the court went on to urge the White House, which is very rare for a court to interfere with administrative actions like this in policy, to reconsider its unwavering support for genocide. So while we acknowledge that there are some limitations to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights on what they can achieve, we cannot, and indeed we must not, remain silent. And we need to know that the IACHR can issue significant findings. They can issue recommendations. They can issue protective measures, and they can shape international awareness and public discourse. And it's imperative that, and I'm pleading right now, it's imperative that the IACHR finds the U.S. in violation of both its own laws and international human rights laws.
Yes.
We need to be found culpable of genocide. And everyone in this room and everyone that cares about this issue, we need to build pressure, layer by layer, institutional finding by institutional finding, until our nation feels compelled to do what is finally and morally and legally right to do. So it's my sincere hope that the findings of the IACHR align with those of the International Criminal Court, that they clearly recognize Israel's war crimes, that we as a country are facilitating it, and prompting the nations of the Americas and the Western Hemisphere to unite in a powerful chorus, declaring unequivocally, enough is enough. Thank you. And I'll just end by saying that this advocacy, it's something that all Americans need to do, that we can join together so that we can never be held complicit for this genocide to the degree that our government currently is. But we cannot stop. And in this effort, I am praying to Allah, I am praying to God that He responds and answers our prayers. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Robert. Next up, we're really honored to have Jackie Lukeman, who is with the organization Black Alliance for Peace. And she's on the National Coordinating Committee of the Black Alliance for Peace. Taxpayers Against Genocide has long admired their work and their stands, and we're honored to be working together in this fight.
Thank you.
It's a lot than I noticed when I first came in. And that's exciting. Peace, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Lukman, and I am a member of the Black Alliance for Peace, Washington, D.C. citywide alliance. That just means the alliance is an alliance of organizations in Washington, D.C. that work together under the banner and under the campaigns and under the ideology and the work of the Black Alliance for Peace. On December 17th, 1951, Paul Robeson and William Patterson submitted a petition from the Civil Rights Congress, called the CRC, to the United Nations titled, "We Charge Genocide."
Yes.
The subtitle is "The Crime of Government Against the Negro People." The petition was signed by almost 100 US intellectuals and activists. Paul Robeson led a delegation to present the document at the UN headquarters in New York, while CRC Secretary Patterson delivered the document to a UN meeting in Paris. Now, Du Bois was supposed to deliver that document with Patterson in Paris, but the State Department kept him from leaving. They snatched his passport. Wow. This book-length document, which you can still get, I encourage you, outlines the hundreds of lynching cases in this country that went unpunished to this day. And hundreds, if not thousands, of counts and obvious brutality and discrimination, showing a clear pattern of not just discrimination and racism, but US government complicity in discrimination, racism, and the genocide of African people, that all exposed the history of the genocide of our indigenous relatives before us. So this document is very not well known among a lot of younger generation of activists, but that's why we old heads are still in this game. We understand this is not a game, but this is why a lot of us are still around. Because you need to understand, we all need to understand, that our struggles for liberation against this capitalist, imperialist dictatorship of finance capital is not a new struggle.
That's right.
And our struggles are all connected.
That's right.
Because of the We Charge Genocide petition, we Africans in America who were stolen from our own land and who from our homes and from our people understand this country's complicity in genocide.
Yes.
We have watched this country, government officials, private citizens, aided by government officials, sheriffs, police, judges, juries, and then courts and higher court judges, and ultimately the Supreme Court and presidents of this country tell us repeatedly that our lives mean nothing, that our blatant murder by every aspect of society and the cover-up and excusing of those murders of entire families, the destruction of entire communities. You do know that Central Park used to be Seneca Village, and that used to be where our people lived, right? You know that Wall Street is where they sold our people on the wall at what? Yeah. The entire history of this country, its existence rests on the bloody foundation of the genocide of our indigenous people and the enslavement of us.
That's right.
We understand what this state is.
That's right.
But our job as organizers, as Pan-Africanist, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-Zionist, people-centered, human rights focused organizers, is to help people understand how our struggles are not separate, but they're all connected. See, we understand what TAG is doing because of the We Charge Genocide petition. We understand that there is no appealing to the courts in this country. in the Pan-African or Pan-European settler colonial white domination ideology state that the U.S. is and always has been, we cannot appeal to their morality. But what we can do, what we did with the We Charge Genocide petition and what will be done with this petition, is that we will raise the consciousness of people who think that this is not their fight.
Yeah.
All right.
Because, you know, some people appeal or respond very well to facts. Some people respond to statistics. Some people respond to pictures. Some people are visual. But some people need to have the reality of the horror slap them right in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need to bring to people the evidence.
Yes.
Because we have to, let's be clear, not everybody is on social media. Not everybody's on TikTok. Most people in my generation and most of your generation, not on TikTok.
No.
So how are these people learning about what is going on in Gaza? They're learning from the 6 o'clock news, the 5 o'clock news. And all news outlets in this country are scribes of the empire, so they say what the empire tells them.
That's right.
Our job is quite literally to tell people the truth. And to tell them the truth in a way that is not just compelling like a good book, but stirs them to act.
Right.
That's why this petition and every piece of evidence in it is important.
That's right.
To present to people who have been misled, who have been told that Israel has a right to defend itself. You don't defend yourself by starving people. That's not self-defense. And no state has a right to exist. Human beings have a right to exist. So our job as the Black Alliance for Peace is always to raise the consciousness of the masses, of primarily for us, the African working class and poor masses in this country and abroad, and to connect our struggle here with their struggle there. But that also means that we educate our people, the masses, on how our struggle is connected with the liberation struggle of people in Palestine, and how that struggle is connected with the struggle against settler colonialism and neo-colonialism in Haiti, how that struggle is connected with the people in Sudan struggling against continued US imperialism, how that struggle is connected with the people in Yemen, the poorest country in the world, doing the only thing that any of us stand up for the humanity of the Palestinians. Our job is, if we like Yemen,
Yeah.
That's right.
our job, if we do nothing else, is to be like the Alliance of the Sahel states and form an alliance in the face of US imperialism, and then announce to the world, if you attack one of us, you get us all. So for me personally, this is a personal struggle, because my family has been deeply implicated or involved, or however you want to put it, in struggling against this system since before I was born, actually. My mom integrated her high school. My dad lived in a neighborhood that was segregated from the white people at the bottom of the hill and the black folks at the top, and he and his family and his friends could not go to the bottom of the hill. And as my daddy says, and my dad is an elder of the Church of God in Christ, my daddy will say, I had to fight them people every day, every damn day, until one day they realized we were not kidding. Sometimes you have to fight every day. You have to fight every day. You have to fight against this system every day. They didn't get this powerful overnight. None of our struggles are going to be won easily. But we can all help carry the weight of this collective struggle if we struggle together.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I am here to declare that the Black Alliance for Peace supports Taxpayers Against Genocide in its demand to end the U.S. facilitation of genocide in Gaza with taxpayer resources, which also facilitates the deepening degradation of material conditions of U.S. citizens already staggering under capitalist exploitation.
Yes.
And while we are, and I will close with this, the other thing I believe this petition will help us do is to help people in this country begin to ask the question, wait a minute, just how much of my tax dollars are going to kill how many people around the world?
Yeah.
Because if we talk about Palestine and the violation of the Leahy Act in regard to using U.S. resources to facilitate genocide in Palestine, then people will start asking, well, wait a minute, what is this government doing in Haiti again? Who's paying for that? And what's going on over in the AES? Who is attempting to assassinate General Traore? Oh, the U.S. is behind that too, and who's paying? We're paying for that. Bombing Sudan, are we paying for that too? Bombing Yemen, we're paying for that? This just might be the catalyst that wakes up people to get them to struggle with us.
Yes.
Right on.
As we say in the Black Alliance for Peace, and I want you to remember this phrase because this is not just a slogan for us, this is our foundation. No compromise, no retreat.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Please learn more Arabic and forget English. English is the language of genocide. Nothing to be proud of. My name is Monadel Herzallah. I'm a Palestinian-American doctor. My colleague, Dr. Karama Hawash Kamerli, is a Palestinian-American doctor. We are the co-founders of Doctors Against Genocide. Really thankful for Taxpayers Against Genocide, for National Lawyers Guild for this important case and this important initiative. All the other organizations that are supporting this initiative. All respect to Black Alliance for Peace. Thank you. It's all connected. I agree with you. And we are here to show our support. All American with good conscience, all human with good conscience who are against this crime that's been committed in our name, who refuse to be complicit. We should all join together, support each other, amplify our voices. Why are doctors here? Because we could not do it anymore.
Yes.
We could not keep up with the pace of the killing. No amount of doctors, no amount of hospitals can keep up with the pace of the mass murder, mass slaughter of children, women, men, grandmothers, grandfathers in Gaza. No amount of missions can fix and stop the genocide. In medicine, there is something we call stop the bleeder. As long as the bleeder is going on, we as doctors cannot do much. The bleeding here is the ongoing genocide. That's why we stepped out of our bedside places, out of our hospitals, to appeal to the world to stop this genocide, this mass slaughter. And we know history will eventually say this is genocide. And we know all the courts in the world will eventually say this is genocide. But we as doctors cannot wait. We go to school for 2 decades to learn how to save one life. We spend countless days and nights in the ICUs in the hospital to save a life here, a life there, only to witness an American 2000 bomb mass slaughter hundreds of children and women in 1 second. And to see this day in, day out for 2 years, we could not stay silent anymore. We could not stay in our hospitals, our clinics anymore. That's why we are outside. It is our job. And Black Alliance for Peace charged with genocide long ago. And Doctors Against Genocide, as a medical diagnosis, it is a genocide. It has been a genocide. It has been a genocide before October 7. It has been a genocide after October 7. It has been a genocide since 1987. The minute they said land without people, for people without land, that was the first genocidal act. They raised our existence. It's been a genocide since then because we allowed it, because of the cancer that's called impunity, because the West and whatever they call the Judeo-Christian aliens, the higher moral people, don't see the lives of other people, the brown people, the Palestinian people, the black people as equal. That's why there has been a genocide. There continues to be a genocide in Palestine. Our medical diagnosis, and the only medical intervention we as doctors are prescribing is stop the genocide, allow aid in, bread not bombs, charge the war criminals, and don't be fooled. It's not Israel that committed the genocide. It is not Netanyahu that committed the genocide. It is America that committed the genocide. It is the White House that committed the genocide. It's the American Congress. Those are the war criminals. We know Israel or Netanyahu or Ben-Gvir dare not throw one bomb if the America did not allow it. And it's not complicated. They can stop it with one phone call. Do not believe them. We don't need any more negotiations. We don't need any more lies, any more attempts to delay and continue the genocide and give them more excuses. It can be and it should end now. We know Biden should not be in his house. He should be in prison, in jail, and along with all his people. Trump said he will bring peace and end all wars. What he did so far is ordered the starvation of 1 million children, 2 million civilians under his watch.
Yes.
And we are going to remind him, you said you are a man of peace, you want to end all wars, you can do it now. You are getting all these billions and all these gifts in the Gulf countries from the Arabs. So at least, as part of courtesy, if you don't have any ethics or morals, as part of courtesy, stop this, you can do it with a phone call. No, otherwise, you are a war criminal yourself, and you should be charged in this case and every other case. And again, I'm not going to take long. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for your support. We have to keep working. Dr. Huwash is here. I want to give her the chance to say something, please.
We say in Arabic, "Unsur akhaka ghaliban aw maghluban." Be on the side of your brother, whether your brother is just or unjust. How do you do that? By pointing your brother to the right way, by correcting the path, by making amendment. That is what Taxpayers Against Genocide are doing. That is what we are doing. We are trying to make this country human again. We are correcting its path. We are giving directions for how to be moral, how to live with others peacefully, how to not kill children, and how to not starve children. That is what we are doing, and united, we will do it together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate and admire the work of Doctors Against Genocide and in this 100% as comrades. So as we wrap up, it's also a tremendous honor to introduce Tarek Kanana. Tarek is from Northern California, came all the way with some of us. Tarek is one of the key organizers in Sonoma County for Palestine. He helped found the organization. And Tarek has also been a lead plaintiff in both the class action lawsuit that got dismissed, we discussed, and he's now he's a plaintiff and submitting evidence for this current complaint. It's a great honor to have you here, Tarek.
It's been clear from the very first days of this genocide, from the very first hours, what the role of the United States is, how important it's going to be to the execution of this genocide. And the word genocide is not enough. No. It was in the beginning, and they told us not to use it, but it's not enough. So at the very first hours, the very first days, we heard our president repeat the lies that were told by Israel. Then everyone in the government repeated those lies. And even after they were proved to be lies, they kept repeating them. So, and then after that, we had the encampments and that were violently suppressed by the government. Everyone from the governor of the state they're in down to the police officer that was there. When the students at UCLA were being attacked by the Zionist mob, and the police stood by and watched, that was more proof. And again, when our case and so many other cases were dismissed, it's more proof what the United States role is. It's not only to supply weapons, it's not only to give money and aid to Israel, but also protect it and insulate it from get rid of all the forces all the people that stand up for demanding justice. Every day, being a Palestinian here in the United States, I ask forgiveness. I ask forgiveness from my people in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Lebanon and Syria, all those, our children, the next generation, their children. We are taking so much away from them. And we are doing it with our money. And whatever we tried, we haven't been able to stop this yet. So it's on all of us. It's on all of us. In this genocide, and ever since the beginning of the state of Israel, before that, the migration of the European Jews into Palestine, there was the main goal was for them to empty that land. They did it by murdering and killing and brutalizing and maiming hundreds and thousands of people. They also did it by removing or attempting to remove our connection to our land. Our connection to our culture and our traditions that were passed down from many, many generations of grandfathers, grandmothers, and that we in turn should be passing it down to our children and their grandchildren. We have seen mosques destroyed and churches. Any kind of historical record of our existence has been attacked, has been deleted from the land. Israel went in, they desecrated the graveyards and dug up the remains of our families, our people, so that they can remove that connection. We have in Palestine, and I hope you all get to experience it, a beautiful culture, so many traditions, the music, the food, just the tradition, the weddings, how they happen, the clothes, the embroidery, the cross stitch. That is another thing we have to fight to preserve, because that is what it's all about. And, you know, I know that one day, not too far from now, it's becoming clearer in my head. One day, we're all gonna meet in Jerusalem or Gaza or Nazareth, and we're sing those beautiful songs and dance the tepki all together. And there's gonna be there that day, just like in this room, people from every part of the world, all ages, all colors, all races, national origins. They're going to be all represented there because they're the ones that stood up with us, and we fought together and made that day happen, and it's going to happen.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yes, I was in Gaza last May on a medical humanitarian mission. And I can sum up my time there in two ways: death and destruction on one hand, and unimaginable strength and courage on the other. At Al-Aqsa Hospital, I saw chaos firsthand. The halls were packed with people, some seeking shelters, others desperate for medical care. Supplies were almost non-existent. Labs, radiology barely functioned. There was no space even to treat the sick and wounded. Think back at the worst moments of the US COVID pandemic, the panic, the ventilator shortages, and the unbearable strain on doctors, some of who committed suicide. Now multiply that by 1,000, and you see that in Gaza, this nightmare has dragged on for 19 months with no end in sight. What I saw, there was never-ending relief for the medical workers, no ebb in the tide of wounds, sick, and dying. The doctors and nurses didn't have a luxury of stopping. They worked even as they themselves were displaced, exhausted, grieving their own family losses. They continue because they know and honor their duty there. When I drove through Khan Yunis, the scale of the destruction was apocalyptic. Buildings and cars were flattened, entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Families huddled in tents, scrabbling for scraps of food and moments of safety. I was stationed in Rafah then. That was the safe zone. The clinic where I worked at, the hospitals I visited are now all gone. We've seen pictures of Rafah. Rafah no longer exists. And neither does the idea of safe place. What stays with me most, though, are the people I treated. Proud, smart, courageous human beings who wanted nothing more than what you and I want, to live in peace, to raise their families safely, to build a future through education and work. I'm horrified at the thought of how many of the patients I saw may or may not be alive now. I think of the 10-year-old boy who brought his 2 younger siblings to me for care, stepping into the role of protector when he should have been outside playing or learning in school. But in Gaza, that has become the norm. Children forced to become adults far too soon, bearing witness to death, injury, and starvation. When I was in Gaza, I felt like time stopped. You enter a place where not only are basic human rights suspended, but the world seems to have forgotten you. This Gaza exception, the idea that anything can happen there and there is no accountability, and was felt by me because when I was trapped as the Rafah border closed, it felt like there was no one there to help get you out. I had the privilege and the opportunity to eventually leave. Gazans do not. Since May 2024, the destruction has only intensified. The people of Gaza are left to suffer in silence, abandoned by the world leaders that either fund their oppressors or refuse to speak out. Silence is not an option. US government has been the largest supplier of arms to Israel with our tax dollars. That's why I'm so happy to be part of Taxpayers Against Genocide, to finally do something. We need to hold our government accountable, that they cannot continue to fund this genocide, which is in violation of its own Lehi law. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Right on. And now, to send us on our marching orders, as we get ready to march, we hope that the media will accompany us as well. We appreciate folks being here, but it's a great honor to introduce Anna Marie Stenberg, who will give us our marching orders and close this out.
Brilliant job. Really
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine. I can't. Thank you. Thank you, doctors. Thank you.
Palestine will never die! Gaza, Gaza, can't you see? Palestine will be free! Gaza, Gaza, can't you see? Palestine will be free!